My favorite movie that I've ever worked on, and it's a movie called Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson, the writer and director. Have you seen it? And it's not really the effects that I did that I'm so proud of. It was incredibly, almost impossible technological feat. We made 10,000 frogs that rained from the sky inexplicably. And you know, we had to build huge machines that would throw them down. We had to make animatronic frogs that landed on windshields. We had to do all kinds of stuff. But it's really not my work that I'm so proud of on that film. It's the film itself. It is so good. It's so good. You should watch it again. And the really interesting thing about that film is that it was inspired by the music. The music was written first, which is really, really unique and odd, and I don't know if that's ever happened before at all. Paul was dating Fiona Apple. You know Fiona Apple, right?
Yes.
And Amy Mann did most of the music, and Amy and Fiona's producer is a really talented guy named John Bryant. So John and Amy and Fiona and Paul would sit up in the Hollywood Hills in their mansion getting high and drinking and write songs for no reason, just for fun, because that's what you do, right? And then the songs started to kind of tell a story, started to inform the story, and so that's how it happened. It happened backwards. And I could talk about Magnolia if you want, but I don't know what we should do. But okay, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you one really good story about Magnolia. I found, first of all, how do you make 10,000 frogs, right? It's fucking impossible. You got to decide what species, you got to somehow cast them, you got to paint them all. So we made foreground frogs, background frogs, close-up frogs. And we had a sex toy company make them for us, most of them, because we used this, we wanted them to splat, not bounce. So we used a material that is called thermal gel. It's very dangerous to work with, and it takes $20,000 machines to use. So we just farmed out the work to the sex. I'm sure you can imagine what they use it for. Here's the story, though, that I wanted to tell you. I found out that my girlfriend at the time, do you guys know William H. Macy, who's in the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, he plays the guy that wants braces so badly. Great actor, asshole. So I found out on the movie, because my girlfriend was working with me in the film, that he was fucking my girlfriend. Yeah, and so there's a scene where he's climbing up the stairs when the raining frog sequence starts, and he gets smacked right in the face with a frog. I loaded that fucking frog with 20 pounds of lead weight and threw it myself. Okay, the movie is so far ahead of its time, it's absurd. I didn't even realize how genius it was when I was working on it at the time, because it was a difficult project. I'll just tell you. Some assistants. David Cronenberg is a genius, and if you go back and look at that movie, if you revisit it, you'll see that it actually predicted the future we're living in right now. And he's also a perfectionist, like most people in the film industry, and he literally, what made it hard for us is that he literally would write the afternoon's shot list, what we're going to shoot, rewrite the script in his trailer at lunch, because he just was constantly striving to make it better and better and better and better and better. And actually, I have to say that this was not my film. I was working for Rick Baker on this film. This is a Rick Baker production. But he wasn't even in town. He was in England setting up a studio to do Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
All those really cool ape suits.
Good stuff.
So he said, Steve, I trust you at this point. Just make all these effects. And then, of course, he took the goddamn credit for it. Yeah, the point of reference I had, whether they were actors or movies, nobody knew anything, so thank you for being a good audience. But I want to give yourself a round of applause. So, yeah, I wanted to out Dick Smith on his Dustin Hoffman 120-year-old little big man makeup. And what happened is, I'm going to teach you something again. I overdid it. Because, you know, looking back, I've obviously took lots of photos of the sculpture and the design of this makeup in progress. And the first versions I did are better than what ended up in the film. Because what happens, I think, with art quite often is that the quicker you get something out of your head and into the real world, the more pure it is, the translation from thought to reality. So a lot of times, almost all the time, with physical art like this, it's better to just vomit it, just get it out and leave it alone. Because I wanted to show the world so badly how good I was at old age makeups, I ruined it. But because I just overworked it. When 2 days into it, it looked great, but I spent a month on it and I just oversculpted it. But the thing is, John and I didn't get along well in this film at all because it was a very cartoony movie, but when you read a script, you never know what the actors are going to bring to it, you never know what the director's going to bring to it. So when I read the script for this movie, I had no idea how Kurt was going to play his role, or Kim. I had no idea, and I fought insanely with John Carpenter the entire time because he really wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do. And again, I'm a very competitive person and I wanted to do the best job I could on all of these characters. But he kept directing me in a way that would make them cartoony. And I thought, John, when this movie premieres, Rick Baker, Dick Smith, Rob Bottin, Greg Cannon are going to go to the theater and throw Rotten Tomatoes at the screen and boo me because you're making me do shitty work. But here's the thing, he was right.